Hey, Facebook world. Facebook and YouTube, and I see that StreamYard just added Instagram Live. So that'll be nice. Now we can hit the Instagram platform as well. I hope you all are having a great 2024. I think this is my first Facebook Live in 2024. And I'm really excited to have Dr. Cheryl Schmitt with me. Dr. Cheryl and I have known each other in the social media world, and I think have been fans of each other for quite some time. And I asked Dr. Cheryl to come and participate with us as a speaker, and as a roundtable discussion facilitator because of her understanding of work and homeschool and having a husband that has a really busy career, and being able to talk about that dance. So Cheryl, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to share anything I can do to help families to be able to balance all this chaos. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, well, let's start with, let's pretend I'm just kind of still getting my feet underneath me as a working mom who's also homeschooling. Give me like your top two piece of advice for the beginner.
Oh boy. So my top two piece of advice would be one, find your community, find your helpers, because you're not going to be able to do it alone. So for me, that was like my husband as well as family. And I also hired help as well. And then my office staff knew that they had to help as well. So you need to find your helpers and to know to reach out. So that would be my number two, is don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't feel like you have to do it all yourself ever, 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 because you're not going to be able to without making yourself crazy.
Yeah, and we when we make ourselves crazy and we're stressed out, that's really felt throughout the whole house, right? Like as women, um at least my experience has been is like I carry the pulse of my family, right? Like if mom's stressed, then everyone's stressed. If mom maintains like, maybe just a little bit of crazy, it seems to help everyone else to be able to stay grounded and calm. Um, yeah, I concur with that. When I homeschooled my kids, they were like before kindergarten, and I knew I wasn't equipped to teach them how to read. Like I didn't want to develop a bunch of bad habits. Obviously, I could read, but teaching somebody how to read is way different. And so I hired a woman who had been like the reading specialist in school and had like kind of just paused her career to be home with her kids. And so that was really nice. And I found out about her through another homeschool family. So I so agree with you
Yeah,
on
and
that.
even like I was say, even like personality traits, like you'll have different personality traits for your children versus you. So I might have a child that's super creative and wants to do art projects and then glitter, and I'm not an art project mom. I'm just not. I'm like, just get down to business, get things done. So I bring in when I hired help, and I had a nanny for a while that came in just a couple of days a week for a few hours,
Yeah.
and I would find somebody that filled those gaps too. It wasn't just that they were someone I could trust, and that's very important, of course, but I also wanted someone who was a little bit not like me to help fill those gaps for my kids as well.
I love that. And I love that you know that about yourself. When my kids finally went to school, I let them know and the teachers know I'm not a field trip mom. I have no interest of taking work off of school. I mean, time off of work to take care of somebody else's kids. If I want to spend a day off of work with my kids, it's just going to be us. I'm not watching anyone else's kids. And just like accepting that about myself and accepting that for our family, kind of like what you're talking about, like, oh, am I a bad mom because I don't want to do the creativity stuff. How have you wrestled with that too, of just accepting what is about your strengths and weaknesses, especially when it comes to homeschooling and being able to do the dance of homeschool and work?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding yourself and what your strengths are. And we have this social media out there that creates like these perfect little homes and very nurturing moms who are always doing crafts and teaching them like the science, doing all the things. So we can get wrapped up and not feeling like we're doing enough a lot. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I get the privilege of being in clinic as well and working mostly with moms, a lot of homeschoolers, and talking to them about reality versus Instagram or Facebook or whatever you see out there. And I think that's just a big like weight off their shoulders, knowing like, okay, I don't have to be perfect. And I'm not perfect. And I show them that. I might show them a picture. Look at what my kitchen looked like when I left to come to work this morning. It was a disaster. I'll get to it. Not
Yeah.
today, probably. So just having realistic expectations. Now we have AI out there. Like we don't know what's real ever on Facebook now. So don't compare yourself to other people, focusing in on your family and their needs and your needs, and not all this fluff about like what is expected in society.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I mean, the comparison game, it's so easy to do and yet so destructive and effective,
Yeah. And you
right?
can
Like,
look at that even like in curriculum and how you're trying to teach your kids, and they aren't picking up on reading, or they're reading late, or they're not doing this that they should be doing in school. So that's how I get into like the homeschooling part too, is bringing in honoring your children and where they are and where their interests are and where what they were put on this earth to do, what their strengths are. They
yes.
might not be mathematicians, and not many people actually are. I think there was a statistic that only 1% of the whole population ever uses higher level math, like above fifth grade math, ever, like in their career or anything. So 99% of us don't need to know calculus and algebra and advanced geometry and all that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
taking the pressure off too of having to think that you need to know everything to teach them that, and that even that your kids might not even need to know it really. So
Yeah, I've never used a parallelogram.
no, I don't use algebra ever. Like, day to day.
Or pre-calc or any of that kind of stuff.
I
So
know I joke with my patients. I'm like, I did calculus, like university level calculus. And if you stuck me with a gun to my head and said, do this calculus equation right now, I'm a goner. It's like, I don't know how to do that stuff anymore. It's just like in and out. I don't use it at all. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Our brains did a beautiful dump of all of that, which is a great thing. Um, I I think it's so important too for those of you who either are homeschooling or have a desire to. Rich Carr, who I am in business with for Brain Not Bone Alone, um, he made a really good point of, part of the struggle that happens when we start homeschooling is we try to do school at home.
oh, yeah.
That's not homeschool, right? Let's talk about that for a second too, because I think if we just try to do school at home, it really defeats the purpose and will do nothing but frustrate all of us.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a reason. You got to think. I tell people, why are you homeschooling? Look at the top 3 reasons why you're homeschooling. And why would you replicate that at home? Like, because most people are taking their kids out of school because they want, one, for them to love learning, two, so they can be themselves and follow their interests and desires. And then usually the third is like different for different people. Like, now it's indoctrination in the schools, or like healthier food during lunch hours, or being around family more. Like, it could be different reasons for it. But those are kind of like the top reasons. And we know, well, I know, the system is failing kids. It's like
Oh,
it's not producing creative, healthy, happy individuals. There's depression, anxiety, like it's failing. So I actually have I think a reel or an Instagram post is like, look at what the schools are doing and do the opposite. So that's how you'll create like the healthier skin. And I'm a little biased because I don't know if you've heard the term before, but basically a radical unschooler. Like we've never followed any curriculum. We've never done any testing. Pretty much whatever the schools are doing, I've done completely the opposite. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but my goals are to raise kids that one know that they can learn at any time, two that they know that their self, like who they are, is most important and not to lose that, and that they're always unconditionally loved.
Mm.
So if you know those things, you can learn. Like we have so many resources to learn things at any moment. I bet you everybody on here who's watching or will watch the replay is going to learn something new today.
Right.
So it's never ending. They don't have to learn everything by the time they're 18. I
Right.
mean, my kids are teaching me things all the time that I don't know, like how to put a computer together or those kinds of things, and they can do all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you don't need to replicate school at home. You have to follow your laws in your state so you
Yeah.
don't get into trouble. But beyond that, really, you can make homeschooling what suits your family and what you value the most. Oh, Barbara, you froze on me. I don't know if I froze on you. Oh, I lost her.
Okay, let's pick this back up. Um, um, I was also going to speak to this, and my dad has always done a really good job reminding me of this. You know, when he would observe me getting frustrated with my kids, especially when they were younger, he would remind me, "Hey, it seems you're getting most frustrated about your agenda not happening the way you want it to," which is so true. And I just want to keep things real with all of you and remind you of this. It's really easy to take a bad moment or a bad day or a bad class or one thing and make it seem as if it's the indictment against you and your children. Like, we have a terrible life. Well, probably not. It was maybe just a bad moment or a bad hour, or maybe it's been a bad day, or maybe it's been a bad week. I do know this, that no storm permanently damages the sky, just like whatever is happening today, whether it's terrible or it's really good, it doesn't just perpetually continue. That there's always a new horizon, right? The sun is going to keep rising and keep setting. And so can we talk about that for a second of what do you find is your go-to on those days?
Oh, sometimes I feel like I have a lot of those days. I think,
Yes.
but when I feel those days is when I am comparing myself to others. So then I look back and I actually look, okay, how are we actually doing? Like, are my kids okay? And then I also say, okay, let's have grace for ourselves. And what kind of good lesson am I teaching my children that we aren't all perfect and that I can apologize to them? And I don't expect them to always be perfect. And the power of an apology or resetting yourself, or how to communicate better as I'm working through it, teaching them how to, like, they're learning lessons too, as long as you don't just keep on ignoring it
Yes.
and hiding it from your kids and going into your room and going, oh my goodness, that was horrible. I'm a horrible mother and blah, 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 and then coming out and not saying to my kids, I'm sorry. I was really putting a lot of pressure on you guys because of this how I'm feeling. So they're all lessons. as
Yeah.
long as you are still working on yourself and learning those lessons. It's learning is lifelong in all ways. And then I also say, I'm a mom and I'm still learning how to do this mom thing too. And especially for my oldest, I'm like, you were my first kid. Like it was your first childhood. It was my first motherhood. Some things changed. I apologize if some things went haywire or you didn't feel a certain way. But I am pretty confident that my kids always felt that they were loved unconditionally and that I was always trying my best.
Yeah.
So we're not perfect. And if we're always trying to be perfect, then your kids are always going to try to be perfect. And if they don't think that they can't be imperfect, then
Right.
they're gonna grow up dealing with the issues you're dealing with.
Right. Right. Exactly. I used to say that to my kids all the time. Like, this is my first rodeo. I haven't done this before. I haven't raised kids who are 8 and 10. I haven't raised kids who are 6 and 4. Like, I've never done this before, and we're figuring it out, and I'm gonna screw up, and please
Yeah,
know I always have the best intentions, and I'm your number one fan, and it's not, like all of those things. And just because I said it yesterday doesn't mean don't then have that humility again today of just asking for forgiveness. Like, I screwed
yeah.
up. It's
Forgiveness from them, forgiveness for yourself
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. So share with everyone what are some of the things that you'll be leading your group and talking about. And for those of you who haven't been to a boot camp event, I'll let you know you're missing out. It really is just a beautiful time of no masks, no facades. I don't do drama. I don't do cliques. We all are on the same place and the same page, and doing life together. And it's just a really beautiful time to let down our guard and to have like real authentic conversations. And it's not, um, if you think it's just kumbaya, and you're watching this, you just don't know me that well. We definitely seek for groundedness and ease, while also, yeah, we're going to crush goals and we're going to raise amazing kids in the process. Um, so so the roundtable discussions came about last year from an event that I did, and so what we did is we had different hosts of topics, a different host of tables, and then the participants would choose what topic they wanted to go to, and then that host would basically hold the conversation, a hold space, because they were the expert in that field. And so I've asked Cheryl to do that, since we do have a lot of chiropractic moms who are homeschooling as well. So what are some of the topics that you're going to bring to your group?
Well, that will really depend on what the group's questions are or where they are in their homeschooling journey. So my first thing will just be to figure out where everybody's at. Like if somebody has never homeschooled before versus someone who's homeschooling a high schooler, we're going to have different conversations, right?
Yeah.
But the basics will probably be more like how to balance practice and homeschooling, how to homeschool legally, like how to find the resources for yourself in your states. And then I always get questions about like high school homeschooling or college. Like, can they go to college? How do you get them into college? Especially if they've unschooled and haven't done a test in their whole life. You know, so it will really depend on where people are at.
Yeah.
Because I have everybody in my family right now. I have a 7-year-old, so like first-ish grade-ish. We don't even do grades, so I'm like, what? People ask my kids what grade my kids are in, and I'm like, I don't even know if they're first, second, third. But I have her; she's my youngest, and then I have a child. My oldest will be 20 this year, so he's officially graduated from homeschool. Graduated. I always like learning never ends, so I don't follow the system at all. So it's like, yeah, he's technically, if you looked at it, he graduated. So I can kind of answer questions in all the stages from starting to graduation and what it looks like at all those stages. So yeah, depending on where the people are at, I'll hopefully be able to help facilitate some discussions and open some minds to get out of that schooly
Yeah.
mentality. So there's a term called deschooling, which I have everybody I work with who I say, go read some information on deschooling and start there. And that's just getting your head wrapped around getting yourself outside of the system and looking at what it could look like if
Yeah.
you are not feeling the pressure to be following a system. So it's, I don't know if that answers the question because it will really depend on who's there and where they're at. Um,
Yeah. Will you be talking about, um, I know you kind of had like an epiphany in your own life not that long ago about taking care of yourself. And obviously it's really easy to put ourselves on the back burner. And I'm not just talking about, the basics of self-care. I'm talking about like the real stuff of things that aren't just um uh a pleasure, but the bare necessities. Talk for just a couple of minutes about how you made that transition and what it's been like.
I think for me, the major part of that transition was actually just knowing that I could. It was in my own head. I had the support system. My husband was more than happy because I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it was going to be. And then once I said, no, this is what I need to do. You are watching the kids while I have to go do this 2-hour bike ride. Here they are, figure it out. And then I had to let go of some control. You do
Yeah.
whatever you want those 2 hours. I don't care. Just keep them alive.
Yes.
And this is what I need to do. And it was great for my husband too, because he stepped up. And so we really do have a very balanced role in taking care of our kids and our practice life. And he's a homeschooling dad, so it's not just the moms. And so anyway, bringing in, letting him know I needed help, letting people like paying for a sitter if I knew I needed someone to fill the gaps, knowing that I was worth that isn't really that much for a couple of hours here and there. But I had to get outside of my own head and realize that if I just make it a priority, like it's on my schedule, like any kind of appointment that I have to make for my kids to go to the dentist or my kids' field trip or office hours, this is a priority. This is on the schedule, and I just have to figure out how to make it work with my community, my support system, whether I had to hire somebody or have family help or things like that. So it was much easier once I did it. I was like, I should have done this like 10 years ago. This was so easy. Like, why didn't I not? Like, why did I think it was going to be so hard?
Right. Well,
Yeah. And then my husband helped more and more because he saw that I was happier, I was healthier. To be honest, I looked a lot better because I was fitter. So he liked that part. So the
right.
support came and it was easy once I started. So
Right.
that's just go, just do, schedule yourself into your calendar.
Yes. And that's a great reason to come and join us at the Women's Leadership Retreat. Let's say there are things that, as a woman, you haven't been taking care of, whether it's your own health or it's your own well-being or mindset, or even just things in your practice. You can jump in and do it on your own for sure. Something that's really important to remember is, like James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, there's a difference between identity-based habits and outcome-based habits. Outcome-based habits are, I'm just going to change my behavior so I can get my desired result. So in order to continue on with that habit, it takes a lot of willpower and a lot of determination and motivation. Like we're always, like we're going through and depleting those resources, versus identity-based habits are ones that, well, of course I'm going to go running because I'm a runner. Of course, I'm going to take time for meditation and reading my Bible because that's what's important to me. So there's a difference and as chiropractors, it's above, down, inside out, that instead of just putting a Band-Aid on symptoms, we're actually like going in and finding where does that come from, so that we don't have to just rely on, I've got to be motivated, I've got to be inspired, I've got to have willpower. And so at the women's leadership retreat, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You'll be able to see what's holding you back, so that you can take better action that doesn't feel so effortful. So it doesn't just feel like, oh, I'm just putting more on myself, but instead feels good from the inside. So as we wrap this up, what do you want women to know who have joined us or will join us about the importance of coming together at this retreat to support and help each other?
Oh, community is so important. And I think we all got a heavy dose of that during COVID, and we couldn't get together for a year or two, and we are all going batty. And for me, it actually took that for me to realize how important it was, because I am really a pretty strong introvert. And so getting like with a big group of people that I don't necessarily know, like just didn't feel that congruent with me. But I realized when I didn't have the people that I could connect with, especially like chiropractors who are more like-minded or more holistic, we like, we think a little different.
Yeah.
And so coming together with people who are open-hearted, who have a similar value system with
Yeah.
life and health is just, it's unreplaceable. Like you have to be able to do these things like once in a while, at least like once or twice a year, at least get with a group of people like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so looking forward to getting together with like a group of women that, and I know it's not going to be like a huge like convention. We're going to be like more intimate groups where we're going to really get to know each other, which is a little uncomfortable for me too. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable for a lot of people to open your heart and open your soul, but it's so necessary in taking those steps forward in your life and growing. So I'm so looking forward to it and meeting everybody there. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah. I appreciate just your honesty about, it's so interesting learning about other people,
Mhm.
right? And finding out, like, it would never cross my mind to think, oh, wow, this could be a little bit nerve-wracking because I don't know all of these women, right? And so I appreciate that you brought that to the surface. And so I also just want to speak out to anyone who isn't a part of our tribe, or maybe you're a part of our tribe, but you haven't been to a live event before. I can promise you within 2 minutes, you're going to feel like you know everybody. It's just the way that we roll in the boot camp. And we all understand the importance of psychological safety. And I wouldn't expect any of you to truly understand it until you experience it. So I would just invite you, like, take a chance on yourself. Grab a ticket before prices go up. The prices go up on February 19th is the last day for our early bird pricing. We also have CEs. I chose CEs that are really relevant to a lot of us, especially this time of year of billing and compliance and all that stuff that many times we wait until the end of the year and then we're scrambling for CEs, and it's during Christmas and Thanksgiving, and the last thing that we want to do is be thinking about all of that. And so Christy Hudson from CHUSA is going to make it really fun to sit in those classes. So anything else you'd like to say before we sign off today, Cheryl?
And I probably talked too much already. But yeah, I just encourage people to come and get together. It's going to be a beautiful location. I've never been there before, and I'm so excited to be, at the beach where it's going to be nicer weather than here in the Pacific Northwest. So if you're up here with me and need a little vitamin D and nothing else, that's a good reason to go. And if you see me at the conference and you are kind of like me and like to have more on one-on-one conversations, please just come up to me and talk to me. I'm not that introverted. I love having one-on-one conversations with people and chatting with people. So yeah, I hope to see you guys there.
Yes, absolutely. So if you look in the comment section, there's a link to be able to get all of the details and to grab your seat before prices go up on February 20th. So the last day for early bird is February the 19th. So grab your seat, come and join us in beautiful Gulf Shores, Alabama, where the event is being held at a state park. And the building is just beautiful. It's all glass. And so we get to look outside to this beautiful environment while we're in learning and engaging with one another. So it's not going to be a stuffy ballroom. Instead, we'll be as close to just being outside as we possibly can. So thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks to all of you who joined us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you in just a few, I guess less than 2 months. We'll see you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And happy Valentine's Day. Absolutely. Thank you so much. All of you have a wonderful day.